Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about, as you can see from these books, a place that I was fortunate enough to visit last year and has connections, very strong connections to ancient Egypt, and that is Highclere Castle. This is this beautiful stately home, as you can see in the image on the guidebook here, is probably best known for being the family home of the family that are portrayed in the TV show and movies Downton Abbey. Very popular period drama on TV, and I think they're just currently about to release the third movie. I know it's a very popular show, and it's all filmed at Highclere Castle, which is the home of the Earl and Countess of Carnarvon. On the guidebook here it says the current Earl and Countess of Carnarvon are the 8th in succession to that title. It's still very much a family home. The family still live there, and obviously certain times of the year the house is open, or certainly the first 2 floors of the house are open to the public, plus all the grounds, the gardens and the grounds. If you're interested in history, in stately homes, if you've had an interest in Downton Abbey, and if you've had an interest in ancient Egypt, then I would definitely recommend a visit here. It's a full day out. I went with my husband and my teenage son. We had a wonderful time. I was very fortunate to get tickets as a gift. We had a great day out. It was very busy, and I think it probably is a place that is always very busy. They do various events throughout the year, plus a general opening. And if you're not so interested in ancient Egypt, you don't have to visit the exhibition. That is in the basement of the property. I'll come on to that shortly. You can just visit the house and the grounds if you so wish. We obviously went into the ancient Egyptian exhibition. That was one of the big reasons I wanted to go. But in itself, the house is beautiful. There's lots of history, lots of antiques, lots of historical artifacts there. So all round, I think you get a full day visit that's very interesting. And I think even if you weren't interested in ancient Egypt or Downton Abbey, I think there's other aspects there. If you're just interested in history and old houses or stately homes, you would find that interesting. We went last year. We went in the April of last year. It was a lovely day. It's a place where you really want to try and, if you can, have decent weather. There's a lot of grounds to walk around as well. So definitely you'd want to have a good day's weather for that. There is a cafe, somewhere to buy food. They don't unfortunately allow you to take your own food in if you wanted to go and sit in the grounds and have a picnic. So you need to bear that in mind as well. This is a gift guidebook that I got when we went. It gives you a lot of information. As you can see here on the front page is a picture of the current Earl and Countess of Carnarvon. The other thing I would say about Highclere is there have been a couple of TV shows, like behind the scenes. I know they've done one at Christmas when they were preparing for Christmas at Highclere. So you may find those on streaming services or BBC iPlayer, I think they would Channel 4, More 4, all the mainstream channels. If you're in the UK, you can probably find these shows where they've done several episodes showing you, and that gives you a good idea of what's going on with Highclere at the moment. As I say, it's very much a family home. It's open to the public. They also have a stud farm where they breed racehorses. The Carnarvon family have a strong link history with training and racing racehorses. I think a previous Earl of Carnarvon was the late Queen's racehorse trainer. They also have a farm where they grow a lot of their own produce they use in the restaurant and sell. They obviously have their own line of gin. They've kind of quite diversified, which is probably what you need to do. I think nowadays as a stately home to stay open and stay running, the maintenance on that building must be quite incredible. They're not owned or part of the National Trust or English Heritage or any organisation like that. They're still very much independent. The guidebook, as you see, goes back right to the early history. It's got a lot of information. It's a decent sized guidebook. It shows you pictures inside the house, gives you information about a lot of the furniture, the paintings, the house itself, the family, the history of the family. It's worth buying if you go and visit as a souvenir. And I think sometimes when you go to these sort of places, you see an awful lot of stuff, but it's hard to remember everything and take everything in. We just missed the bedrooms here, which I think some of which have been used in the Downton show, which if you're a lover of the Downton TV show, you will know and recognise. I think I like guidebooks because sometimes you just want to go back because you know you're going around a home. You don't always get time to stop and make notes or think about what you're looking at, and it's nice to go back and sort of find out more about what you were looking at. And of course here we have the Mask of Tutankhamen, because obviously the 5th Earl of Carnarvon was with Howard Carter, sorry, when they discovered the tomb of Tutankhamen. He was his financial backer, his investor, paying for the search and for the excavation, and that's the other thing that Highclere is known for. And they do have an exhibition all set up in their basement with lots of copies and lots of artifacts and information. Let's just carry on flicking through. So I thought this guidebook, when I do visit places like this, I don't always buy guidebooks, but I thought this one was worth the money, so I got that. So I'll put that to one side for the moment and just show you. I also got this. This is Egypt at Highclere. This is the guidebook for the exhibition. And again, it's a very full guidebook. There's a reasonable amount of text, some lovely photos. And again, you can go and look inside. There's a kind of folding out pages here, which I won't go into. A great guidebook. It actually cost about £8 if I remember rightly, which isn't cheap, but I actually think given what you get is worth it. The exhibition, as I say, is in the basement of the property. You're guided round. There's lots of artefacts and facsimiles and replicas, but it's a real taste of what was going on at the time, the process and the discovery of the tomb, what was going on for Carter and for the Earl of Carnarvon, and the story, which a lot of which we already know about what happened at the time. And obviously we've only just recently had, the tomb was discovered 1922, 1923, so we're 100 years from that now, just over, although it took quite a few years to excavate the tomb. And so we've had an anniversary of that. So I think it's still very much, Tutankhamun is still very much one of the most, well, he's one of the most recognisable, it's one of the most, the mask is one of the most recognisable artefacts in the world. The young king, it's a fascinating story. It's one of the best known stories of ancient Egypt, probably the best, I would have thought. The discovery of the tomb, the story of that, the story of things being cursed, all those kind of things. And we can see it in later stages in TV shows and movies where it's very much been influenced so much that's come since in terms of stories and movies, books and things like that. So I got the 2 guidebooks when I visited. You do have to pay extra if you want to go and see this exhibition. I obviously wanted to, very much so. And I think even if you're not into ancient Egypt, it's still worth going to see it, because it is something that even if you're not into this sort of period in history, everybody knows the name Tutankhamun. Everybody has some understanding of what the story of finding the tomb and what's gone on, even if it is kind of the more well-known aspects, such as the tomb was cursed, if you believe that. If you don't believe that, whatever. Movies that you've seen, like The Mummy, things like that. I think people have some understanding. So I would recommend definitely going to see this exhibition if you go to the castle. I think you need to see everything while you're there. And while I was there, I also bought this book. Now, the Countess of Carnarvon, whose name is Fiona, is an author. She's written several books on some of the occupants of the castle at various times in history. And this is a book she wrote, The Earl and the Pharaoh, and it's obviously about the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, his life, but also the main part of it is obviously Tutankhamun and his work with Howard Carter and finding the tomb. It's a hardback book. See, it has got some plates with photos, which some of the photos of people are quite famous, and also about his life. And I was very fortunate, I bought it there, to get a signed copy. This was £20, which I didn't think for such a size book, hardback, was a bad price. And I bought this from the Highclere shop. They've got a shop obviously there with souvenirs and their gin and various other things that they sell. I didn't think that was bad for a book like this. I know a book this size, hardback, you would quite often pay more than £20. I haven't read this book yet. This is on my list of books to read. And once I have, I will be doing a review. I obviously wanted to read it from the point of view of Tutankhamen and ancient Egypt, but I think also it goes into some of the history of the castle more in depth as well. So she has written, as I say, just showing you the back there, other books, several other books, and so I think about some of the other people that have lived there. So it might be worth, if you're really interested in Highclere, not just Tutankhamun, it might be worth checking out what she's written, and seeing whether you like what she's saying. She's obviously writing non-fiction, and it's all historical, and she does all her own research into whatever subject matter she's writing. So she does a lot of research, but obviously in terms of Tutankhamun, Highclere have got a lot of information already, because obviously the Earl of Carnarvon lived there. And obviously brought back a lot of artifacts and information after the excavation, and although he died not long after, but obviously sent back a lot of artifacts and paperwork and various things like that. So I think if you're interested in Highclere, whether or not you're interested in ancient Egypt, and it's definitely worth checking out her books, and seeing whether you like her style of writing and whether or not, how interesting you find it. But she's got first-hand knowledge. She's also got immediate access to all the resources and historical information as well. So this book I will read, and then I will do a review. And I have to say, if I like what I'm reading, I might check out some of her other books as well. So that is the book that I also bought when I was there. And I was also fortunate that I was able to get a signed copy, which I always like getting signed copies of books if I can. I think it just adds something to the book itself. So that is probably the next book on my list of books to read. So at some point in the future I will do a review. So I just wanted to do a video, another ancient Egyptian themed video. I think if you are able to go, I would suggest you go and have a great day out. There is something there for everybody, I think, depending on what you're interested in. I hope that people have found this video interesting, possibly helpful, if people like the idea of visiting places. The tickets, well, they're like a lot of stately homes, they're not the cheapest. You might have to save up, or it might be, sometimes they do deals, but they don't really do deals, but they have events on, and I think sometimes you can get better value if you go to an event, because you can get tickets at these sort of places that cover everything. Have a look on their website. They've got a website. I know that the Countess also runs something that's called the Friends of Highclere, where they do you can go in person and meet her, and they have special guests and book reviews and podcast meetings, and you might get some special deals sometimes on what they're selling, like the gin and at various events for the Friends. And it's obviously another means of income for them to keep Highclere Castle going. As I say, these stately homes are incredibly expensive to run and maintain, and I think a lot of families that own them still, run all these sort of things and diversify to keep these sort of buildings going. Otherwise, there'd be nobody live. They would just fall into rack and ruin. So it's a stately home that I like to support because of its links to ancient Egypt and the history. And I would obviously continue to try and support them in whatever way I can. Maybe there's a stately home or an old house that's near you that you can kind of think about supporting in some way to keep these places going. That might be something worth thinking about. But anyway, I hope people have found this interesting and hopefully helpful. If you have been, please leave a comment. If you're planning on going, please leave a comment. I'll be really interested to read it. Please, if you've liked this video, like the video, subscribe. Will continue to try and post more videos about ancient Egypt, and plus anything else that may interest me as I go along. But for now, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll do another video very soon. Please leave a comment as well. I'll be very interested to read any comments. Thank you.